The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Welcome back to another edition of Cherry Picking, and it wouldn't be cherry picking if I didn't have my main man next to me, Mr. Matthew Harrison. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, all good, Craig. I've put on my well, I say one of my favourite away shirts, but the away shirt we wore the time when we hammered Saints 3-0 at St Mary's. So yes. I thought I'd put that one on tonight. But yeah, looking forward to talking about the FA Cup and some people's memories of their first love of a player in a Bournemouth shirt as it's Valentine's. And also discussing the big derby at the weekend.
Well, of course. Now, if you're new here, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button below. It does help this channel to grow. And after this video, do go and check out all of the other content that we've had over the past week or two. There's some really, really good stuff to catch up with. But I tell you what, let's start off with I've completely lost my words there, Matt. Guess the cherry. I tell you what, that just come out of
Yeah, I can understand that myself.
No, to be honest, of course, everybody will know that we do editing on this show, but I do like to leave in there a blooper, so I am leaving that in. So, yeah. I'm not a perfectionist, really, am I?
Well, yeah. Anyway, I'm sure somebody may have understood that somewhere. But anyway, this week's Guess the Cherry then. He was born in Tadcaster in 1997, has one full England cap, represented England at under 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21 level, is the only other England captain to lift a World Cup other than Bobby Moore. That's obviously in the men's game, because obviously the ladies have lifted a trophy. Obviously not the World Cup, but unfortunately, they have lifted the Euros, haven't they? Made 85 appearances for Leeds United and has played in various positions under Andoni Iraola. A nice, easy, simple one this week.
Yes, there we go. So, answers in the comments below. Don't check it until you have watched the whole of the video or guessed yourself, because that's cheating, and cheaters never prosper. But that's but I tell you what, let's go on to the FA Cup and let's talk about what has come out. So, of course, last weekend we played Everton in the FA Cup and we beat them 2-0. To be honest, a very, very, very good performance in that first half. Everton probably better in the second half, but are Bournemouth FA Cup favourites? Now, this article is from Fansided, so I'm going to just read this out for anybody listening on the audio podcast. And if you don't want to read it as well on YouTube, I don't blame you, because I'll read it to you, probably with the odd mistake. So the path for Bournemouth to an FA Cup title is wide open between now and the 5th round. Bournemouth have to play Southampton, Wolves and Brighton. Should they progress to the quarters, there's only Tottenham and Brentford in between. Will Spurs be able to field a team by them? Obviously, Bournemouth aren't facing quite the same gauntlet as others. Their league schedule doesn't really turn up the heat until May, when they face Arsenal, Villa and City all in a row. Nice and easy, that. Which is all after a possible semi-final. The City game would be moved for a final appearance. Thirdly, there's an element of chaos that can appear in FA Cup games that only some teams are built for. Bournemouth are definitely built for that. When games go all blood and thunder, as English commentators like to use, or they're just trying to describe their prostates. Oh dear. there are few midfields more prepared for Harum Scarum than Tyler Adams, Ryan Christie and company. Bournemouth want games to get open and chaotic. They thrive in turnovers and getting their forwards running into space. I'll tell you what, who's written this is, he's a man with words. Man with words. To boot, there isn't really a style that Bournemouth can't play when they need to. They have defended and countered to beat Arsenal, City and Newcastle at St James's Park. They have kneecapped teams where they've had to take more of the ball, like Forest. Whatever way they have to do it, Bournemouth can do it. What's more, they still have a squad to come back from injury to take some of the load off. Bournemouth are challenging for the top 5 and in the 5th round of the FA Cup, all while missing 7 to 8 regulars. Most are due to return over the next month, with only Evan Nielsen set out for an extended period of time to go. Of course, NSU now as well, you could probably throw in there as into that mix.
Yeah.
Bournemouth aren't fighting on as many fronts as some, but they're still going to get the cavalry back in the next little bit. They can maintain their Champions League charge and a cup run without having to prioritise and make choices with their lineups. And it continues. With any cup run, a team needs a little luck. Wasn't that DJ Neat's little bit of luck get you through the night or something? Something like that, yeah. Bournemouth could use a good draw. They need to have no one else to get hurt. If Justin Kluivert could stay scorching and maybe crash in another 1 or 2 from 25 yards, that'd be nice. That wouldn't hurt. Though they didn't need him on Saturday to waltz past Everton, and Daniel Jefferson takes over in the starting 11 and scores. Everything manager Andoni Iraola has turned to gold this season. Turn it into silver in May at Wembley shouldn't be considered a shock anymore. And this is from Paddy Power. The latest odds to lift the FA Cup. So as you can see, we've got to say on this channel, bet responsibly. Only bet what you can afford. Don't go and bet money away, what you can't afford. There we are. There's a little bit of advice. But Man City favourites, probably expected that. Newcastle 5-1. Manchester United 6-1. Aston Villa 15-2. Bournemouth 8-1, Brighton 12-1.
Interesting.
It is. What do you think of those odds?
In fairness, I'm not surprised. I mean, Man United, like we were discussing before we came on here, I think they've got, quite a, they've got a history with the cup, haven't they?
Yeah.
They have won it numerous times, and I mean, when you go on the back of their season, it probably is surprising they're 6-1. But when you look at the history of the cup, at the same time, it isn't really. I don't think. Man City, you don't expect them to be anywhere else. Newcastle 5-1. They've just made the Carabao Cup final. So I think that's good odds, really. Villa 15-2. Yeah, I mean, out. With it being so wide open this season, the likes of Villa, Bournemouth, Brighton, it's giving clubs that opportunity this year, and it does make you, when you look at that there, it does make you think, is this Bournemouth's now or never opportunity?
Yeah.
Because it's some years this does happen, doesn't it, where a few of the big boys go out, and hopefully Plymouth knock City out at the Etihad, because that would then really open it up, wouldn't it? But that's going to be a massive ask. But the FA Cup, I mean, this year is looking a bit more like a classic FA Cup year, isn't it? Where some of the big ones are going out to the so-called smaller clubs. Obviously Plymouth knocking out Liverpool, they knocked out Brentford as well, and now you've got to remember Brentford's home form this season has been excellent, and they've gone at the time really struggling in the Championship. I know they're still not safe from relegation, but I think they're in a better position now than they were then.
They battered Millwall.
I did see that. So I mean, to go to Brentford when you're struggling in the Championship isn't easy anyway, but when you go to Brentford, the home form they had, and to beat them in the manner they did, is excellent. So they've got City next, so they've
beat Liverpool
at the weekend, and I know some people are saying Liverpool played a few youngsters, but when you look at the whole of the squad on and that those players that were on the pitch, you would say they would bypass a lower Championship side, but that's the magic of the cup, isn't it? So Villa, I think they've got Cardiff. So Villa, Cardiff could cause an upset at Villa. That's a potential. I mean, I when we did our show the other night, I predicted, I stuck my head out, my neck on the line, and I said I'm going to go for a Cardiff win there, because it's just the magic of the cup, isn't it? You'd love to see it. So I personally think it's really, really wide open this year. And when you look at some of the odds there, if we can get past Wolves, for me, I think it could be on the cards.
To be honest, when the draw was made, if we were destined to get a Premier League team, Wolves were the team that I wanted. So I'm pretty happy, and I'm a bit more, to be fair, I'm more comfortable with this draw than I was the fourth round draw, because Everton, new manager, David Moyes, a little bit of that impetus. They already looked better side in the third round game when they beat Peterborough. They were already looking a bit better without Sean Dyche. We knew that they were going to come at us, and we swept them aside. To be honest, we did more than enough. Yes, they could have possibly come back in the game in that second half, like Steve did say, from the Toffee Blues, but we managed to effectively lock them out, and that's a really, really good sign. That's a really good sign. Wolves, I'm not concerned by Wolves. If you keep Matthias Cunha quiet, should be absolutely fine. Looking at those odds, Man City 15-8. Now, I watched that game between Man City and Leyton Orient, and I'll be perfectly honest here. I know it was a Leyton Orient, but Man City got lucky.
Yeah. No, I saw. Was it a rerun of the game? Because I think that was a Saturday lunchtime game, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a rerun of the game. I think it was on the red button or something. But that first half, I mean, that first sort of 10 minutes, you thought, oh, could be an upset here.
Yeah.
And then when you saw the goal, obviously, I mean, he's hit that well, and obviously he was lucky with it coming off the back of the goalkeeper, and you're thinking, geez, there could be a real upset here. And do you know what? City had to, in the second half, had to really dig deep to beat Orient.
Yeah.
You know, it's the magic of the cup, isn't it? I mean, anybody can beat anybody on the day. But yeah, they did have to dig in, City. They had to dig in deep to get that win, didn't they? And that might be the issue they face against Plymouth. I know it's at home, so they're going to have obviously the home side backing them. But you know, if Plymouth go up there and they're stubborn, you know, they're going to give City a run for their money, I reckon.
Well, I honestly do think they possibly will give Man City a run for their money, because I don't think Man City are back to their fluid best. I think they'll make a lot of changes, and Plymouth seem to be getting it together. The new manager seems to be getting it together. It's not just this FA Cup, as we say. They won heavily against Millwall in the Championship as well. Leyton Orient, you know, to be fair to them, have gone from relegation candidates to the playoffs in League One. So they were never going to be any pushovers. Maybe Man City, they had a decent team on there. They had a decent team on there. You know, the Man City second string should be beating pretty much every League One side. I think Birmingham City, you could probably say, that would be a bit tougher. Of course, Newcastle come up against them, and it was difficult work, but I think we can let Newcastle have that. Of course, Newcastle got a pretty tough tie in the next round. So I think, you know, honestly, that could be difficult. Let's go on to Man United as well. 6-1. I just don't rate Man United. I honestly don't.
No. I totally agree
honestly
with you.
don't. I honestly
Yeah.
don't. And they've got. I'm surprised that another team aren't on here in Fulham. I'm surprised Fulham aren't on this list.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point, actually, isn't it? Because it's open.
Yeah.
You know, this is an open cup for them as well. You know, if we're talking, you know, Bournemouth and, you know, Brighton and names like that, you've got to mention Fulham as well. I know you're spot on there, and I forgot all about Fulham drawing United.
Yeah.
Fulham can go there and do them. Can go there and do them. And like I say, they've only got 6-1 odds because of the history they've got with the cup. You know, and you know, they've not had the greatest of seasons before and actually won the cup, haven't they? Like under Louis van Gaal, I think they missed European football that year, didn't they? But they won the cup. Last year with Ten Hag, they beat City, didn't they? So again, still not a great season last year. This season's even worse. But I mean, yeah, that's the only reason why they got that 6-1 odd. Fulham can go there and cause an upset, and I'm hoping they do, really. But yeah, every opportunity of an upset there.
Fulham won't rest players either. They'll be up for this cup as well as ourselves.
Yeah.
As Villa, I can't see them resting players either. And to be honest, I honestly think that we've got a great chance, because Iriola seems to be taking this cup, you know, very, very seriously. So, yeah, I think, you know, we've got a great chance.
I think we have definitely got a great chance, definitely.
Well, I tell you what, before we do get into our next segment about Saints, let's give a shout out to our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. And also a big thank you to our secondary sponsor, Touchpoint Telecoms, for all your business telephone needs. And also they do CCTV as well. Visit touchpointtelecoms.co.uk. So I tell you what, let's talk about this weekend's game. And here it is. Cherries are aiming to become the South Coast Derby Kings. There we are, the Derby Kings. Although, saying that, Southampton might beat Derby or might break Derby's record. Let's just say that as well. Yeah, they have got a chance of that, but hopefully nobody lets them out of that. I'll tell you what, that'd just be so funny. A stat that will frighten Saints. The Cherries are undefeated on the road since the 3-2 defeat at Brentford. And crikey, that's a long time ago. Of course, I interviewed Lloyd Owusu before that game as well. Yeah, that's quite some time ago. It's pretty good, isn't it, for an away record?
Yeah, no, it is really good. It is really good. And for any Saints fans watching this, it's obvious what we're going to say. But I can't see it finishing on Saturday. I really can't see Saints beating us.
No.
So yeah, it looks like that stat will continue. And yeah, rightly so. But yeah, no, it's gonna be an exciting one.
Yeah.
I believe there's some food offer, isn't there, going on? Isn't there? Did you
Oh,
see
there
it?
is. Yes. There is a food offer. So here we go. I'll tell you what the food offer is. I did save it earlier on. So on Saturday night, Sharkies are offering free pizza till 1 a.m. This is, of course, in their Southampton branch if Saints win the game. So I would suggest that you go to Lidl and just get yourself a fucking pizza, Saints fans.
I
I
think
wouldn't even worry.
I don't think places like that do promotions like that these days, without being confident that they ain't gonna have to fork anything out. So
Exactly. Exactly. Sharkies are probably, what do you call it? They've already got it planned. They're like, they've already done their order, and they're probably picking, oh, what do we need this week? Oh, hang on, we've got this offer of pizzas. Oh, this is if Saints win. No real extra pizzas. We won't fucking need them really.
But yeah, that is a good stat from Bournemouth's point of view. It's great, to have such a long time that we've undefeated on the road. So yeah, it's a good sign. And yeah, obviously, I like I say, I can't see it being beaten this week. But yeah, the season stats so far, it's obviously we are superior
Yes.
to Saints. But yeah, when you look at it from Southampton's point of view, and in fairness, all joking aside, you wouldn't want your club down there struggling as badly as they are, because it's a horrific place to be in the league, isn't it? And it's a very, very lonely place as well.
Yeah.
After such a hard fought season last year to get back up at the first attempt. And then you look at their biggest win there, 2-1 against Ipswich, and their worst defeat, 5-0 against Spurs at home. So it's in fairness to Saints, I know we all joke and banter about it, but it is a lonely place to be. But
yeah.
Nobody cares about that for 90 minutes on Saturday when we're playing them. But yeah, it is a lonely place to be, and yeah, it's it's not nice, but just look at their goal averages.
Absolute shite, really, isn't it?
And look at the goals that they're conceding. The average they're conceding an average of 2.25 goals a game. So, it's dire, but it's set up for Bournemouth. If Bournemouth play against them like they did against Newcastle,
yeah,
we could we'll probably be their worst defeat of the season because
I know, and that'll be our biggest win.
Yeah, we could score 5 or more there on Saturday.
I've got to be honest, though, and this might please a couple of Saints fans. I'm actually quite gutted that they're in this position because we actually like having a bit of a local rival. Yeah, we might take the piss out of them. And there might be fans that are a bit bitter and hate them and all this and that. But that local rivalry is actually quite enjoyable. It's not really bitter. It's not really nasty, but at the same time, it's a bit good fun, really. So
I think if you ask the majority of Saints fans, I don't think any of them are really bothered about Bournemouth. Their
no,
derby
agree.
is Pompey, isn't it? And
Yeah,
always will be. So I think most of the banter and that comes from our side, doesn't it? But I think when you ask, majority are saying obviously they want to do us, obviously, but I
yeah,
mean, the biggest grudge and the real derby atmosphere for them is when they obviously play Pompey. But we make the most of it when we go there and when they come here. So we make the most of it, and it is a South Coast derby, whatever you want to call it. But obviously their fans obviously see the Pompey as the real derby.
yeah. There's quite an interesting video online as well about the rivalry between Portsmouth and Southampton, and the rivalry between our two teams. Is nothing compared to that. And I can't ever imagine it being that. So yeah, light-hearted banter whenever I turn around and say, but don't want them to break Derby's record. And to be honest, part of me would find it funny if they, finished on 9 points, but at the same time, I'd rather them stay up because we have that local rivalry and an easy 6 points next year as well.
But then again, we do love the band so much that we called this episode when the Saints go championship. So, anywho, moving swiftly on. But yeah, the stats doesn't do them any favors, and you can see why they're languishing there at the bottom of the league, and unfortunately going down. It's
completely unprepared for the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think maybe their previous manager may have been a bit stubborn in his ways and not wanting to change, adapt his way of playing. But that's the way it is. Sometimes managers have their own, their own views and their own philosophy, don't they? And they stick to it. And I think maybe in the transfer window, I don't think they really boosted their squad enough to stay up.
Yeah.
You don't always have to do that. Obviously, I mean, the season we came up to the championship, obviously we didn't spend millions and millions and millions, but we added in the right places.
Yes.
The first time we come up, with Eddie, he added the quality into the right places, whereas I don't think Saints have, with what they added in the summer, I don't think has really obviously done them many favors. But that's the stats, and like you say, you can see why we're sitting pretty in 7th position. But and this is the reason why. I mean, look at the form guide. Brentford obviously giving them a 5-0 hammering. United, who obviously, as you've highlighted during the FA Cup chat just there, aren't having a great season. But obviously convincingly beat them.
They did go 1-0 up, Saints, though, in that game.
Yeah, but I think it was quite convincing for United after that.
Yeah.
But then again, I might be wrong. But Forest, Newcastle, I mean, they've obviously got that win, against Ipswich, which will that give them a bit of confidence? I don't know, after a defeat to Burnley in the Cup. No disrespect to Burnley, but really, Saints would probably be looking at that to try and build up a bit of confidence to take into the league. If they had 2 wins on the bounce there, it might have given a bit of confidence. But I mean, we've spoken about our form, a hell of a lot, and Everton, and really, like we say, there should really be 4 wins there. But obviously, given that free kick away when we did it against Chelsea, in that dangerous place, and obviously James converting it, you get your punishment, don't you? But I mean, the form, obviously, from us has obviously been great all season. You know, we've been talking about it for, you know, since pre-Christmas, haven't we, our form? So, yeah, if you're a Saints fan looking at this, you're probably thinking, you know, how we can quite freely score goals at times. You know, when you're looking at the Forest, you know, way we picked Forest apart, and they're a decent side this season. You know, going up to St James's and putting 4 in the net there. You know, if you're a Saints fan, you're probably hoping to keep the score down to damage limitation, I suppose, on Saturday.
Well, they've got to come at us. They've got to come at us because at the end of the day, time is running out. You know, they're not officially relegated, but we know that they are going to be relegated at the end of the year. You know, the likelihood of them getting out, it would be probably the greatest of all great escapes if they was to escape this at this stage of the season. I personally think, though, if they do come at us, you know, that will suit us
Yeah,
as a
massively.
team. And, you know, I think, what do they do? I don't really know. You know, if I was the Southampton manager, I don't know what I'd actually do. Do I sit back and defend, but then again look at what happened to Everton under Sean Dyche? Or do I have a go with the potential to lose 8-0 or something ridiculous like that? I feel for them. I really do feel for them. You know, that Ipswich win, you know, it shows where Ipswich are as well. To be honest, I think they're going to be joining them. You know, as
Yeah,
much as the
yeah.
Romantics wanted Ipswich to stay up after their double promotion,
Yeah, I was
I
one of
can't
them.
see it
I was
happening.
one of them. But yeah, it's not looking likely
Yeah,
now, is it?
no,
Unfortunately for them. It'd have been a lovely fairy tale for them, just like obviously Luton last year. It's been
yeah,
lovely for them to stay up, but obviously looks like they're probably just going to come short. But then again, they do have a fantastic manager at Ipswich, someone who I
yeah,
do highly rate. So, you know, if they do go back down, they obviously won't look at
mm,
sacking the manager because he's, you know, highly thought of up there, isn't he? And he's done the
yeah.
job before, so he knows the championship. So yeah, it's definitely a difficult one from a Saints fan point of view, isn't it, at the minute?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the records, you know, the recent meetings. Yeah,
It never used to be that
it's
great, did it? But it's
no, you're right. Over the years, and you
mm,
know when obviously we were promoted back up to the Premier League under Gary O'Neill. Not under Gary O'Neill, under Scott
Scott
Parker, and then
Parker. Yeah, Scott
when
Parker,
when obviously
good
Gary
man.
O'Neill took over,
Yeah,
I can just see that goal of Taverniers and the way he was doing that sort of, was it
mm,
like a chicken dance celebration or something he
yeah,
did? Yeah, they're fantastic. But like I say, the game that stands out for me at St Mary's was the 3-1 victory.
yeah.
I think I said 3-0 earlier on, but obviously I was wrong. 3-0 because I remember Wilson scoring.
Yes, Wilson
Oh,
scored.
yeah, great night. Did Cook score as well?
I
Am I right in
think
thinking
I
Cook
think he
scored
did.
or Ake? One of the two.
Yeah, it's such a long time ago now. You
Yeah,
know,
and I remember because I took my dad with me on that one,
mm,
and it was it was great to see us beat him up there. But I think with the sort of history of us
yeah,
again beating 3-1 at home this season, I think we're gonna do another double um,
hmm
on Saturday when we beat the Saints. But
of course, that 2-0 on Sunday, the 19th of July, that was during COVID, an empty
yes,
Dean Court, and
yes,
I think, you know, it would have been a very different result had the season not been curtailed. You know, we was in good form going into well, before COVID, and then when we come out of it, everything just seemed flat. And of course, we had the Ryan Fraser situation, put nicely, to contend with. I don't think our preparation was that great, and I think that Dean Court, when it's empty, isn't the fortress it can be. You know, when people take the piss and say it's a small ground, you know, it's too small for the Premier League, but it is a fortress. Um, The one I was probably most disappointed, because Saints were in such bad form before it, was that 1-0 defeat at home to them under Gary O'Neill. That wasn't a good game.
Didn't
You
that
know,
sort of kill his run off? Didn't he have a run of 7 games
yeah,
undefeated, and that was his first defeat, wasn't it? I think, if I remember rightly.
yeah, we
Yeah,
went from the Liverpool 9-0 undefeated until that game. And to be honest, we went into it in confidence. The Southampton side was very, very torn to shreds at that time. It was under Ralph Hasenhüttl. And they made it difficult for us, but I don't think we made it easy for ourselves as well. So that's probably the most disappointing. But the recent form against them has been very, very good.
yeah, and it has. And obviously, we did have the quarter-final of the FA Cup sort of in between them as well.
Yes, we
where
did.
we
Yes.
unfortunately lost that one as well, didn't we? But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's the total, the head-to-head. So played 13. Obviously, they have the more wins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be a case of 5-5 wins. I think on Saturday. I really do. I really can't see us
Yeah.
losing Saturday at all. And obviously 4 draws. But yeah, I think that is going to be quite a different statistic come 5 o'clock on Saturday.
I think it'll be equal.
Yeah, definitely be 5 wins apiece there on
Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah, and you know me, normally I'm quite,
Glass half full, aren't you? Really?
well, no, normally I'm quite sensible with what
Yeah.
how carried away I get, but I just can't see us not winning on Saturday. I just can't see it. Just
Yeah.
can't see us not winning. I
To
really
be
can't.
honest, same here. Same here. I've never been really as confident about a game as this. I know I might have said, "Oh, we'll beat Liverpool." Went into it all bullish, but deep in my head, I always thought, "Well, something could happen." But this, it's absolutely a no-brainer with the way they've been playing. The way we've been playing. There is absolutely zero doubt. Absolutely zero doubt.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. Totally agree with you.
Mm.
But then it comes to this. So obviously we've both said already a Bournemouth win.
Yeah.
But I mean, are you?
Mm.
I've got a scoreline in my head, but I'll let
I'll
you
be
go first.
honest. Here's another question as well. I don't know much about their manager. I
No, I don't
don't.
either. No, I don't.
This is what is weird about Southampton is, and they've bought in this manager that, there's not, with zero experience, in the Premier League to try and keep them in the Premier League. And I just don't think it's paid off. I don't think it's any better. I've got to be honest. I don't think it's any better than what Russell Martin was doing there. Um, he's originally from Yugoslavia, of course, the Croatia part of Yugoslavia, but zero experience in English football until this point. It just seems like just a ridiculous appointment. At that point, now if they had bought in a Sam Allardyce, it still might have not have worked. Might not have worked. If they bought in an Alan Pardew, might not have worked. An old school manager, we might say these days have gone for these managers, but they would fight. They would fight, and I just don't think there's any fight in them really. I think that this guy is trying to play some football, but he just can't do it with the players that he's got. I'll go first then with regards to the score prediction, and we're on fire. We was on fire against Everton. I think we'll get Liverpool just be seen as just a blip. It's not really a blip because they're top of the league, but we'll get over that one easier than if it was against Ipswich, for example. I'm going to go for a resounding 7-0 here. 7-0. I actually think we'll absolutely thump them.
7-0.
7-0. I honestly think that we are going to absolutely thump them,
No,
considering
you heard it here
we're
first.
we're in that momentum. We're in that, things are working for us. things are going well. Southampton can't for love nor money get any momentum at all. They might have been beaten by Ipswich and go and get beaten by Burnley in the cup. And Scott Parker, there is absolutely zero doubt. Okay, the prediction might be a bit left field, but I'm going to go 7-0.
7-0. Well, I'm I'm not. I'm going 4-0. I'm going 4-0.
Still a thumping for Saints. Still a thumping. Absolute thumping. And
It is.
I just cannot see. I cannot see anything but, because from when I've seen them, and even when the highlights against Burnley, it was piss poor from a Premier League side. And in fact, you've got to look at Luton and what's happened with them this season, and Sports Republic, who are of course the people, the owners of Saints, need to look at it and go, right, we need to get this on a decent field. We need to get somebody in who A, knows the club, B, can actually get a squad of players going together. I said, and we'll bring up the preview in a second and advertise that, but I said, to my guest this week, I said, why the hell did you not go back in for Ruben Selles? Towards the end of that season, he was doing something with them. He was trying to get them moving. He beat Chelsea.
Yeah.
He was making things happen. Players were pulling their weight. Under this guy and under Russell Martin, absolutely none of that's happened. And that would have been an easy capture for them to bring Ruben Selles back to St Mary's. So I don't understand why they didn't try look at that, even if it was a short-term thing. Sellers didn't have anything really to stay at Reading for. So yeah, it would have made perfect sense. But I tell you what, let's advertise this preview as well. And it is with Alex Letizier. Some people will know of Alex, a good friend. But are Saints sinking quicker than the Titanic? That is the question. Jack Stevens doesn't look very happy there. I'm surprised what's happened with him as well. Talking about Jack Stevens, he looks a shadow of a player under both Russell Martin and this new guy, Ivan Juric. He looks a shadow of a player. So
He did put a good shift in at Bournemouth when he was on loan, didn't he? And I quite favoured him at one point. But yeah, since going back there, he's I think he was kind of been in and out of the team as well, hasn't he?
He has, yeah, he has. I just don't think they need somebody in there, a proper manager, to get the players pulling in the right direction. Because at the moment, it is a complete and utter basket case, that football club. I've said it there. To be honest, Southampton fans, let me know if you think any different. But to be honest, you're on 9 points. I'm probably guessing that you're not. But I tell you what, Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you did this week as well?
Yeah, this week on the Facebook page, we were, as it's Valentine's Day, we were asking fans for who were there, who was the first player that they loved to see in a Bournemouth shirt. And yeah, we had quite a few comments on the Facebook page, and we'll go through some now. But obviously, you're up first. The first player that you really loved to watch in a Bournemouth shirt was one of our best goal scorers, Mr. Brett Pittman.
Yeah, he could make something out of nothing. He was always there in the box. He was a pest for other teams to play against. He was a big part of our survival. -17 season. He was a big part of our promotion. Of course, he did go off to Bristol City, but he did come back. Was it? He was on loan first, wasn't he? Come back on loan and then come back permanently, if I remember correctly.
That was right. Yeah, you're right.
And again, adapted straight away to the Championship, was an absolute thorn. I think it was probably 1 goal in every 2 games, if I'm right in thinking. Somebody can correct me on that. I am just quickly let me just quickly do a search on that. 34 goals, 88 games. That pretty much is. He was a huge part. The biggest gripe for me, and you know where this is going, don't you, Matt? That he never got a chance to play in the Premier League.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but obviously I attended the evening with Steve Fletcher
Yeah.
recently, and he actually mentioned about Brett and a possible reason why he may not have been kept on by Eddie, but
Mm.
be probably good to get Fletch back on here at some point to talk about some of the stories I heard the other
Yeah.
night. But, yeah, it's a shame really, because obviously played for us
Mm.
in 2-1 championship.
And then he went off to Ipswich, didn't he? And
he scores
he was banging it in for them.
he scores goals. He's a goal scorer. He's a goal
Yeah.
scorer, and it doesn't matter what level you play at, you score goals. I mean, look where he's playing now. He's playing at actually a friend who I go to football with. His nephew's playing with him at the minute. What's the team called? Can't remember the team.
Oh,
Begins with an S. Begins with an
because
S.
he's at Shaftesbury.
Is it then?
Shaftesbury. He was at Porchester, wasn't he?
Yeah. But wherever he is now, like I say, his
Yeah.
nephew's playing with him, and he's still scoring like 50 odd goals a season. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what division you play in. If you're a natural goal scorer, you know how to score goals. And he done it at every level up into the championship. So, and then obviously when he stayed in the championship with the likes of Ipswich and where else did he go after Ipswich?
He went to Portsmouth.
Pompey.
I know that
He had a
because
good spell at Pompey.
he did.
I
He did. I know for a fact, though,
think he
and
won the
this is
Johnson
one.
Paint Trophy, didn't he? Not Johnson Paint Trophy, whatever it's called these days.
Yeah, the LDV Vans Trophy, wasn't it, or whatever? Yeah. But I know for one fact is that his time at Portsmouth, I think, went a bit sour. And I don't think he particularly got on very well with Kenny Jackett, who was the manager there at the time. So I think he went off to Swindon after that, and then dropped into non-league. Again, I will just have to check that, but Swindon, Bristol Rovers as well.
Of
Completely
course,
missed Bristol Rovers after Swindon.
yeah.
So yeah, he went there. He went there for a short season. If I'm right in thinking, wasn't he injured a lot of the time he was at Bristol Rovers?
I think he may have been. Yeah, I can't really remember much of his time at Bristol Rovers, if I'm
No.
completely honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, a
Yeah.
great goal scorer, someone who
Mm.
will always be in the minds of many Cherries fans.
Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't. A big fan of Jackett though at Portsmouth. And I believe, was it Jackett that took the captaincy off him as well? It's a model professional. That's what annoys me, about that, is that he deserved his chance in the top flight. And, it'd be interesting to hear a little bit more of why the reason he didn't get his chance might be.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I'm
Definitely.
going to shut up now about Brett Pittman, because I could talk about Brett Pittman all night, and we could go through every single goal that he scored. You could be listening in 10 hours' time. So I'm going to give somebody else a chance now.
Yeah, well, it was that 30-yarder against Wickham in League Two that will always stay in my mind,
Ooh,
and that
yes.
solo goal against Fulham. I mean, like you say, we could talk about his goals all night, but we've gone funny there, haven't we?
Oh, there we are.
Yeah. So yeah, my choice. The actual first player, my first favourite player when I started watching Bournemouth was actually Mark Morris. And I used to love watching Mark Morris because he just used to throw himself into a tackle and into a header or whatever.
Yeah.
But when Coxey came in, especially when Machin converted him to a centre back, he was just so class with what he did. You know, he was good in the tackle, but he was also class with the ball. And he also, you know, obviously he's come up with quite a few goals. I mean, he was leading goal scorer one season. I think it was only a total of 8 goals, but he was leading goal scorer. And yeah, he's the first player I had on my shirt when we had squad numbers and stuff. I had 7 Cox on my home shirt, and I had 19 Jorgensen, I think, on my away one. But yeah, he was just my first player that I could just, you know, always being excited to see every week in, week out in you know, in a Bournemouth shirt. You know, obviously Fletch, and there was other players, Fletch, Scott Mean, Robbo, Steve Jones. You know, I love all those kind of players, you know, from, you know, all the time, you know, from when I started watching Bournemouth. But yeah, just Coxey for me was, like I say, the first one that I really, you know, really loved watching, and was excited to watch. I mean, like I say, I was only probably about 11, 10. I think I was probably about 9 or 10 when I think he signed for the club, from Crystal Palace as a midfielder. Yeah, like I say, Machin converted him into a centre back, and yeah, and away he went. Obviously, first man to lead us out at Wembley. But yeah, and I mean, I've met him a couple of times. Been lucky to meet him a couple of times, and he's a lovely bloke as well, and very humble. Because the last time I met him, he was at an event at Poole Town. This is quite a while ago, actually, and he was playing in a charity football match, and I had a photo with him, and I said to him about, you know, when you were at Bournemouth, you know, you were my favourite player, and, you know, had you on my shirt and everything. And he was so humble with it. You know, he was such a lovely guy. And obviously he's back at the club now, and he's doing some great work within the, you know, the community. And yeah, just a top guy. And like I say, my first Cherries love. But yeah, we were going to be joined by Liam tonight, but unfortunately Liam couldn't make it tonight. But Liam had a couple of choices. His choices were Wade Elliott and Steve Fletcher. But we'll touch on these players a little bit more as we go through. But Liam, if you're watching, thanks for your choices, and hopefully we'll have you on again at some point soon. But Danny Stewart on Facebook, he commented Ted McDougall. Now, obviously, that name was going to crop up somewhere. Obviously, club's all-time leading goal scorer. Obviously, had 2 spells with Bournemouth between 1969 and 1972. Obviously, 1 promotion with John Bond, and was then taken by Manchester United, if I remember rightly. Don't think his career really took off at United, but then went to West Ham, and then I think he teamed up again with John Bond at Norwich, I think, if I remember rightly. But yeah, I mean, he was always going to be mentioned by somebody. You know, Freddie Cox brought him in. I think it was about 10 grand, I think they spent on him. But yeah, he's got obviously a long-term affiliation with his football club, always will have. His second spell wasn't so prolific. He was brought in by, I think it was John Benson, who just took over from Alex Stock, I think. But his second spell wasn't so prolific. I think he scored like 16 goals in 50 appearances, I think. But yeah, our all-time leading goal scorer. And there's no surprise that he's been mentioned. But
he was always going to be on here, wasn't he?
Yeah, always is going to be on here, but also we'll discuss his strike partner a little bit later because that was also a choice by somebody
Mhm.
on Facebook. But yeah, Chris Hubble, obviously he watches quite a bit and interacts on our Facebook page quite a bit. But his choice was Steve Fletcher, and
Yes.
yeah, just like Ted, obviously an icon of this football club, and for my era, he's just so prominent in this football club. Remember him coming to Bournemouth as a youngster. I mean, I think he just turned 20. I think when he joined Bournemouth, and
Yeah.
he was living in digs and kind of had the shadow of Jimmy Quinn over him.
Mhm.
Because obviously Quinn had left and he was the first striker to be signed by the club, so he was seen as a replacement. And two different strikers, two totally different strikers. And
Yeah.
obviously, Fletcher being the target man and not the natural goal scorer that Jimmy Quinn was. Obviously, he did take a lot of flack in his early days, and but yeah, grew up with the club. And has become an icon, and will always be remembered for scoring that goal that kept us up against Grimsby. But he's a lot more than just that goal against Grimsby. That's the fairy tale. But Steve Fletcher is, for me, of my era. So my dad's era is Ted McDougall.
Yeah.
My era is Steve Fletcher.
Mhm.
And for me, he is him and Ted McDougall. They are Mr. Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Isn't many people like Fletch in football these days. So yeah, Chris Hubble choosing this guy. Yeah, another one that you wouldn't not expect to be on the list.
To be honest, one of my favorite players of all time.
Yeah,
Out of, and that's not just Bournemouth players, that's out of all football players because, A, what he did for this football club, but also, secondly, how hard he worked, how much of a hassler he was, and yeah, he's just a damn right nice bloke as well. And I've got to say, that shirt, it's just bloody gorgeous, that shirt. I think we need to be honest, I don't think we should have changed the third kit. Honestly, hands on. I think we should have just kept it.
yeah, yeah. It's a lovely kit. I've still got the original somewhere, obviously, but it's in a kid size. And my one says
Yeah,
yellow coaches, but I think I prefer it with the seaweed on it, to be honest.
yeah.
But he
Gonna
he
be
was a
eBaying
hit.
later.
Yeah, he was a hit everywhere he went. Obviously, when Bondi let him
Yeah,
go from Bournemouth, he went to Chesterfield, and they really adopted him at Chesterfield. The fan base there absolutely love him to the point where I think it was the last game at Saltergate. Um, the
you
fans
mentioned this.
chanting his name. It's
Yeah,
and obviously when he went to Crawley, Steve Evans didn't really want to let him go, but obviously, let Fletch go to come back to Bournemouth to obviously, have his swan song at Bournemouth. And, I mean, even in his second spell, he made 134 appearances for Bournemouth in his second spell,
yeah,
which says a lot of the man, doesn't it? And,
yeah,
um, our record appearance maker and ambassador and player liaison officer and former assistant manager, former coach. I think he's done every job at the club apart from tea lady, I think. But yeah,
yeah.
an absolute legend, and not
Mhm.
surprised that he was picked by one of
Yeah.
the Facebook guys. So.
Hey, I tell you what, Fletch, if you're watching this, get us a cup of tea, and then you have completed the whole set there.
This one was an interesting one that come up.
Yes.
Picked by who picked this one?
Lola.
Ah. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, I can see now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, Dan Juma. Now, again, to be fair, I was quite surprised to see his name on there, but an exciting player when he was here, and it was a shame when he went. But, his first season, quite injury hit. But yeah, that season he had in the Championship, he was pretty much unplayable. Just when he was at Bournemouth, it was his fitness, wasn't it, really, that let him down? But I can see why he's been picked, because when he was playing, like Mary's pictured there, the season where we just missed out on the playoffs, he was a fantastic player, and really excitable to watch. But
unfortunately, he has had a bit of a rough spell, hasn't he, really, since Unai Emery left Villarreal to go to Aston Villa.
And Tottenham didn't really work out too great for him, did it?
No, neither did Everton, in all fairness. I don't think.
I forgot he went there.
Yeah, because of course he turned up, put on an Everton shirt. It was all, and of course the picture was leaked. And then he went to Tottenham, and then he went back to Everton. So yeah, and he's at Girona at the moment, and yeah, it hasn't really worked by the looks of things. But I think again, under the right manager, Unai Emery was the right manager. Hey, if, say, for example, Andoni Iraola thought, well, I want to get somebody, maybe another head in, who knows the club, who has got experience, and can play in this style. I think Arnaut Danjuma would be a sensible option, really. But he is at 28 years old, so hey, Andoni's built a very good side, but I wouldn't be against that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the manager you play under.
Sometimes it is, but I don't know. Sometimes some players should never go back, I think. It works for some players, but it doesn't work for others. But thanks for your choice, Lolo.
Yes.
Lola, who was it? Sorry, that chose that one? Lola. Thank you very much for your choice. Okay, another player from yesteryear, chosen by Sandy on Facebook. Yes, Terry Gulliver. Now, Terry Gulliver, I did an interview with David Stocks, who spoke quite highly of Terry Gulliver. Career at Bournemouth. He also started at Weymouth, if I remember rightly from the interview with David Stocks. And then I think he finished his career in South Africa with Cape Town. But yeah, a player that for a certain generation, obviously is very fondly remembered. He's a right back as well. And he was a right back. And other than that, my knowledge on Terry Gulliver isn't overly great. But all I do know is that people of sort of my dad's era, and for players like David Stocks, they spoke very, very highly of him.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it was meant to be one choice, but some people picked two. Alan Smith here, Jason Pearce and Marvin Bartley, which I thought was two good names to bring in. Now, Jason Pearce come from Pompey, if I remember rightly, and great player for Bournemouth. Old-fashioned type of defender, one that would, not scared to put his head on anything, and just sort of like in some kind of ways, he kind of remembered me a little bit like John Terry.
Yes, yeah.
When he was playing for us, great attitude, wanted to win every ball. And went on and had a fairly decent career. Played for Leeds. I think he retired at Charlton, and I think he's part of Charlton. I think he's part of Charlton's like youth academy or something like that now. But yeah, a great choice. And again, from I love that shirt as well. I've got that shirt somewhere. I've got to dig it out. From that era, when we were, struggling -17, he was one of those players that, you always sort of counted on and depended on. And similar to Marvin Bartley as well, he was a great midfield engine. And I was very fond of Bartley. Very saddened to see him go when he did, but I could understand why he went. But yeah, he's someone that had a fairly decent playing career in Scotland as well, didn't he? And he's been a manager. I think he's doing a lot of punditry work now. I think
Yeah.
he's sort of in between management jobs, isn't he? I think he's left one fairly recently, and he's doing a lot of media work now. But yeah, two great names to see on the list, and so thank you to Alan for his choice. Where are we?
There we are.
Alan Groves. Now, Alan Groves only played one season for Bournemouth, but he seems to be quite not the greatest of pictures there either of him, but he was quite. It was a choice of Ian's and Andy's on the Facebook page. Now it was only 1973 to 1974 that he played for Bournemouth. Made 36 appearances, scoring 4 times. He went on to play for Oldham and Blackpool. But unfortunately, he died young.
Yeah.
He died at the age, I think he was about 29.
Mhm.
He was always said to, be a very, very fit player, but yeah, unfortunately died at the age of 29. But yeah, a name that I've heard quite a lot over the years, Alan Groves. But yeah, unfortunately, he passed away young. Neil Young, Russell Beardsmore. Wow.
Yeah.
Russell Beardsmore, obviously a Fergie fledgling, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a bit of footage about him actually playing for United, and yeah, quite a coup when we managed to sign him. Unfortunately, his career was ended for injury. I think he might have only been about 30 when he had to retire.
Yeah.
But yeah, great servant for Bournemouth though. I mean, he could play in midfield, played on the wing, played left back. Was quite a versatile player for Bournemouth. Neil Young, I mean, what can you say about Neil Young? Second on the appearance chart. Great right back, to be fair. I mean, him and John Bailey, fantastic partnership down the right. It's actually funny because during the John Bailey interview, which we'll speak about just at the end, John was saying that he thought he scored the goal against Walsall, but no, unfortunately, it came off the player shin. Not known for scoring goals, but not many right backs are. But in terms of his actual delivery of a ball, crossing balls into the box and getting forward from right back was, he was fantastic, and
Yeah.
also played centre back quite a bit towards the end of his career. But yeah, now in Australia, has been there for quite a fair few years. But yeah, a legend of this football club. Two well-known players there, and two very good choices there from Peter Cole.
Yep. Definitely.
So this man's been mentioned a lot. He's the man that's actually been mentioned the most in the comments, to be honest, is Wade Elliott. Now, obviously, Liam mentioned Wade, and Anna has
Yes.
also mentioned Wade Elliott, but we'll talk a little bit more about Wade shortly. But yeah, another choice for Wade. Got to say, I was a Wade fan as well. Tony Nelson. Now, Tony Nelson was picked by Tony Smith. Now, got to be honest, I don't really know anything about Tony Nelson, but doing a little bit of research on him, he started his career at Newport County. I think he played for Bristol City as well, but it was at Bournemouth where he made most of his professional appearances between 1956 and 1965. Was when he started. What was when he was playing for Bournemouth over a 9-year period. Born in Scotland, but he was brought up in Northern Ireland and then settled in Wales. So had quite a journey as a youngster. But yeah, Tony Nelson, a name that I haven't heard of before. So it's always quite interesting when people talk about names that you've never heard of, and then you look into and do a little bit of research on them. You sometimes find an interesting story, and look at that for a old football shirt.
Crikey, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure that God rest his soul, but when I spoke to Al Guard, on this show, before we went into the Premier League, we was looking at the transfer activity and maybe, signings we'd quite like to happen. And Al had a proper replica of that. And I'm sure, if Al was here today, I would talk to him about Tony Nelson, and I'm sure he would tell me everything I need to know. So yeah, good pick, Tony.
yeah, good pick. Sean O'Driscoll. Now, he was described, I think, in the comment as the 80s Ryan Christie.
Yeah.
He was picked by Rob Marshall. Now, obviously, Sean O'Driscoll was the record appearance maker, obviously, until Fletch, and then Youngie. I think Youngie's second, isn't he? Or is Sean still second? I can never remember. But yeah, great servant for the club. As manager and as player. I think he's one that did pretty much every job at the club. I think he was physio at one point and player physio at one point, and then he was obviously youth team manager and first team manager. Well, assistant first team coach, or whatever titles he had, he's done pretty much every role. And obviously, at one point was assistant manager at Liverpool, wasn't he? But a well-known name in the Bournemouth folklore, and good pick there. And not surprised really actually that he's on the list. But yeah, the 80s Ryan Christie.
Yes.
And here we go. Yeah, Wader.
Yes.
Picked again, this time by Nathan on Facebook. Obviously picked by several people. And not surprising really, because he, for me, what always got me with Wade was, I don't think he was really the fastest of players, but he just seemed to glide past defenders. And would pop up with the odd decent goal as well. And yeah, he was an excitable player to watch. And so I'm not surprised he's been picked quite a few times, to be honest. But yeah, went on to obviously fulfill his dream of playing in the Premier, didn't he? Scored the winning goal in the playoff final. Again, another great away shirt there. One that I do have in my collection that I'm quite fond of. But yeah, Wader, great player. Like I say, the way he glides past defenders, he was superb, and he was a bargain buy, and I think he was always destined to play at a higher level.
He was a regular for Burnley for years and years and years and years, wasn't he? And played for in the top flight. I think he was pretty much, if I'm right in thinking, he was pretty much ever present for ourselves, and he was pretty much ever present for Burnley as well.
Must have racked up some appearances over the years.
Yeah, I'm just doing in fact, he played every single Premier League game the season after he got them there. And he only missed 4 games of the Championship season. He played every single game of the season preceding that as well. And he missed 2 games after they were relegated back from the Premier League. So he was pretty much ever present, like he was here, to be fair.
Yeah, one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah.
Ray Bumstead, obviously, a lot of the older fans know a lot about Ray Bumstead. He's local lad. I think he was born in Ringwood, I think. And another player that was signed by Freddie Cox. He also played for Weymouth and played for, I think he then had a record. I think he had like 415 appearances for the Cherries or something like that. Had a testimonial as well while at Bournemouth against Wolverhampton, I think it was. a player that was very, very well liked amongst his fellow professionals and people locally. But yeah, and again, look at the retro kit there. Boscombe FC.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, lovely, lovely guy, and yeah, thanks for your pick, Mike.
Yep, definitely.
And here we go. Last one from Steve Hemming on Facebook. Phil Boyer and Ted McDougall. Now, Phil Boyer, a lot of people say about Phil Boyer, you know, he used to do all the hard work, and Ted would do a lot of the finishing. Obviously, never got the privilege to see these two play, but I think Phil and Ted pretty much played at a lot of clubs together. I think they were at Norwich together, Saints together, Bournemouth obviously together, and they had that kind of magical partnership. You know, Phil always knew where to put the ball for Ted to finish, and yeah, Phil Boyer probably doesn't get the recognition he deserves sometimes, because obviously Ted always had the limelight with the goals, whereas I think even in his book, I'm pretty certain, which I've got somewhere, he does say, you know, a lot of his goals are a credit to his partnership with Phil Boyer. So, but yeah, that's a nice. It was nice to sort of do that. Read through
Yeah,
people's
definitely.
comments that, you know, who was their first, you know, love in a Bournemouth shirt. But yeah, well, before we wrap up, it's probably time that I just quickly plug.
Yeah, we've still got
plug.
Guess the Cherry as well.
Oh yes, yeah. Well,
But
I'll quickly plug this, shall I? So,
yeah,
so I've
go
started. I
for it,
might as well
Matt.
now
Go
for
for
this
it.
guy. Yeah. So obviously, this week I had the privilege of sitting down with John Bailey, who's obviously famous for scoring the goal at Wembley, but you know, he was a great servant for Bournemouth, and he's tells us all about, you know, his time in non-league, moving from Enfield to Bournemouth. You know, his time under Machin. Few good stories about different members of the squad, you know, and you know, talks quite frankly about his injury, and how his career come to a, you know, an unfortunate early end. But yeah, it was really nice to speak to John. Lovely
Yeah,
guy. But yeah, that's now live on the channel, so yeah, do give it a check out when you
yeah,
can. But yeah, real good one. Real sort of happy that I you know, had the opportunity to do that, and yeah, like I say, a guy that I used to watch week in, week out. You know, fond of his partnership with Youngie on
yeah.
that wing. So yeah, no, it was a real privilege to do that one.
And I tell you what a great show as well. And you know, do watch it all the way to the very end. You know, I was a little bit upset at the end. I've got to be honest. You know, with of course, I don't want to go too much into it. You'll have to watch it and hear John's own words. But you know how John's time here come to an end, and you know how you know, after that injury. So yeah, but you know, it was an open, frank, honest interview, and very, very, very interesting. So yeah, it's incredibly good. So go watch that straight after as well. By the way, doing the first Cherries players that you know you fell in love with. If anybody ever does want to, our older fans want to get involved in this channel as well, and wants to talk about their memories and things like that, do you know what? Please just email us, because we'd absolutely love to accommodate you. And in fact, you know, if we can get a couple of our older fans, you know, talking about their memories of years ago before me and Matt were born, you know, then you know we can step out and enjoy the conversation. So yeah, please, please, please do get in contact via email. But I guess we got to round up with the answer for Guess the Cherry. So let me run through this. So our Cherry was born in Tadcaster in 1997, has one full England cap, represented England at under 16s, 17s, 18s, 19s, 20s, and 21 level. He is the only other England captain to lift a World Cup other than Bobby Moore. He made 85 appearances for Leeds United, played in various positions under Andoni Iraola. Who might he be? I know who he is.
Well, of course, if you haven't guessed it already, it's Lewis Cook.
Yes.
Lewis Cook, yeah. And what a great asset he's been for us this season.
He has, yeah.
Absolutely, filling in at right back for as long as he has, and all those appearances he made this season so far in midfield alongside Christie or Adams, or he's been great. He's a great player.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button below, because it does help this channel to grow. It means the world to me and Matt. But until the next one, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.